Hey, welcome back to the BVB podcast. My name's Jacob, joined as always by and we're coming off fresh right after the Pokal exit. Dortmund losing to Wolfsburg 1-0. How you feeling, man? Without getting into the match stuff, how you feeling?
Not great. The fresh is the right word. I mean, just minutes after I caught the replay here, we're recording at about 6:30 our time here, and apologies. I'm going to try to find the best words I can this episode, but I'm pretty heartbroken at the moment. How are you?
Yeah, pretty bummed. It's just I'm not like as sad as I am just like mad and frustrated at uh not that game specifically, but I think the circumstances that have kind of led us here, which we'll get into. I've got a lot of things I want to say looking at this match, but we'll hit Augsburg a little bit. I know this one is so fresh, and I think it all kind of leads into each other. We'll hit on Augsburg a little bit, but before we do that, I just want to do a couple of housekeeping things, as you will. It's been a bit, I think, since we plugged our Discord, and I just apologize because I always love to plug it because how that community has grown a lot. You probably weren't. I know you're watching the replay, so you probably weren't on it today, but it was so. I don't know if fun's the right word, but it's just nice to have a community of people to chat with throughout the match today, specifically during this Wolfsburg match. It's basically, if you're not on Discord, it's a big old group chat. And it is my preference rather than being on Twitter and just seeing the opinions of, I don't mind people's opinions, but they're always it's just something special on Twitter. So I like that Discord is very much a little community that we built. It's all listeners. We've never really actually tweeted about the Discord or put it out there on social. We always just talk about it on the podcast. So if you haven't been involved or if you're not a part of our Discord, but you want some Dortmund fans to commiserate with, the Discord is a great place. So you can find the link to the Discord in the description of this episode. And shout out to everyone in there. Also, right after the Wolfsburg match, I pitched it to the Discord, but like, hey, we're about to record. So if you got questions, if you got anything you guys want us to hit us there. So that's always a good place to just chat with us. Like Carver and I are actually on it too. I was chatting throughout the match from my own account, not just the BVB podcast account, but like we're actually on there. So it's a fun place to chat and meet other Dortmund supporters. And like I said, commiserate together. The other thing I want to hit, if you are still have any desire to watch Dortmund the rest of the season, and if you're in St. Louis, as Carver and I are we still going to do it? We still showing up? We're going to be at Amsterdam Tavern this coming Saturday. I feel like I usually do a pretty bad job of plugging these things, so I'm on top of it. Want to get out of the way. We're going to be at Amsterdam with the rest of the Borussia STL crew, watching, which is I'm guessing is going to be a disappointing game. I don't have a lot of hope for the game coming up this weekend. I don't think it's going to go that well. Not only with how things are going for the club, but like we just have not been able to show out against Leipzig, even in home matches. So, but it'll be fun hanging out together. And then just putting the call out for anyone in. I know there's the DC guys, the Kansas City guys, the Boston guys. LA is having a big watch party. Brooklyn Brusen got him. Never mind. That scarf's hanging up in my office, but. Anyone else doing a watch party, make sure you let us know, and we'll love to share that in our Discord, in our socials, and everywhere else. So if you're in St. Louis, join us at Amsterdam. If you're not, let us know where your watch party is, so that everyone can just commiserate together. That's what it's about right now. So, all right, all that's out of the way. You want to talk some football, Carver? Or is that it? We can just wrap the podcast there.
Wouldn't be a bad idea. People coming on and seeing on the list. Is that a 5-minute episode? It's just us screaming for 5 minutes straight. Screaming and crying.
That too. Yeah, that too. I mean, 10 minutes, 5 minutes of just letting you know what's going on with us and in the community. And then 5 minutes of just screaming and maybe a little crying. But yeah, let's talk football. Let's start with Augsburg. Away at Augsburg. Just getting the lineup before we get into anything. Starting with in goal, Kobel. Obviously, we had Benzabaini, left back, Schlotterbeck, and Anton, our two center backs. Rierson, if you remember him, he was playing right back. Mecha and Sabitzer, two holding. And then we had Gittens, Brandt, and Mullen, and Girassi. Pretty much, I mean, looking, this game also now feels like it was so long ago. with everything that's happened and how the lineups have had to shift with everything that's happened. I would say standard or a to be expected lineup going into this match. Do you have anything off that right off the bat though?
Now the lineup's going to continue to pick themselves going forward with more and more injuries. There's question marks after this Wolfsburg game as well. I mean, who knows? There's not going to be too much experimenting, I guess, outside of throwing the younglings in to hopefully rescue us in certain moments. So
yeah, and I mean, I kind of just want to talk Wolfsburg, but what do you have like quick any notes from this game? Like again, I almost went into this game with low expectations, just with the trend, like how the team's been trending, and I know it has been a hot button like everywhere, not only in our Discord but on socials. But like the big thing is Shaheen. People tend to want him out quite a bit, and I think that already when you're already heading into a match with that in mind, like you kind of go in with low expectations. That was my thought, and this game obviously did nothing to help fix that.
Very little confidence for me and the team themselves. This team is struggling with not only injuries, but in terms of form pretty much this whole season now. I do have a lot of notes on this game, but I'm going to be as succinct as I can here. I'll try to limit down a lot of the thoughts. I mean, the performance is pretty predictable. It's very par for the course of what I talked about last week of we're only seeing this team perform really in moments at a high level. In this case, it was the opening minutes. You did see, some promising spells of possession, baiting the front line forward for Augsburg to exploit gaps in behind and just in between those lines because Augsburg's back line didn't come too much out. And then, you get the goal early on from some good movement from Malen, low 1-2 between Malen and Girassi. That was a XG of 0.52 for that shot. And then after that, we ended the game with an XG of 0.99. So for the rest of the 86 minutes of football, Dortmund saw 77% of possession, but produced less than a half of a scoring opportunity in just terms of XG for the remaining of this game. So of course, Augsburg, they didn't have a high XG either. But once again, you just saw how, Augsburg can really take their chances. They were very precise with their shooting there, both goals coming from the same attacker. Just the belief and the desire that they have to really take the game to us shows you how, and it's the same for us too. Whenever we play high level teams like Madrid, we can rise to that occasion when we have the sense of belief. And then, the team waits for, the higher opposition team will wait for the game to come to them. And so it can play into your hands there. And that's kind of what you saw here in this Augsburg game. So it's another disappointing, but not surprising game.
Yeah. And I think there's a quote from Wolf, and I just saw it like very briefly on Instagram. I'm not gonna be able to find it again, but coming from Wolf after the Augsburg match where he basically said like we had a plan, like we knew how we wanted to set up and play against Dortmund, and that's exactly what they did, and they obviously got the result out of it. And the frustrating thing about that is, one, ex-Dortmund player, I know we kind of like let him, like we were fine I think at the time with letting him go. Now I'm just like, we need all the bodies we can get. But to hear that quote and know just like the idea of like them having a plan, I'm like, what the hell is our plan? Do we have a plan? I don't know. We're just out there on the pitch running around hoping someone does something. And it's worked out on a few occasions, but as of late, we're just kind of seeing things crumble.
For those of you that are not on Twitter, fun little thing, if you want to call it that, Wolf still had his profile updated to be a Borussia Dortmund player, like his header, his Avi, his bio, all had Dortmund up until this weekend. And then like hours after Augsburg won, that's whenever he changed everything and made a big post, which I'm not having a go at him, do whatever. It's just, I thought that was funny here. Yeah, after that goal, again, 4 minutes in and Malen scores that goal, there's very little rhythm and desire to push and create more chances. And, it's tough already to build momentum for this team. And then whenever you take in just like, the timing, I think there was a lot of issues there and just like the structure of the buildup. There were moments where we had like some decent switches of play, but in general, even though, again, 77% of possession, Dortmund were not able to build much in this game. You saw Mecha start this game pretty poor, one from him, even though he has been looking more promising this season around. Just the lack of awareness and the slow turns, very par for the course of how Mecha looked last year. And he was dispossessed multiple times. So, pretty lackluster game from him. But, it can go around the table here looking at other players who are also very, again, disappointing. And, Augsburg is the first time that they've beat Borussia Dortmund since 2020. So several matches, several meetings here where most of the time we've obviously won, but a few times we've drawn, and this time we really fell right into their hands here with the moments in the transition from Augsburg and just getting these shots off with extreme precision.
So obviously they went on to score in the 25th minute. I'm gonna fast forward to halftime because I'm curious if you said you had a lot of notes on this game, and if you have some on the substitutions, I would love to hear them. Because obviously we make a couple changes at the half. We see Pascal Gross come in and Emre Can for Anton and Sabitzer, and then just shortly after that, 50th minute, they score again. And I'm just curious what notes you might have had on the substitutions in this match. I know later on in the game, people were kind of calling to see a little more subs come on or make some changes, or like let the youth get in there and try and do something. And I have a lot. I think after this match, I have a bit of a rant. I'll probably go on a bit of a rant, but just kind of the youth and our playing with the youth and how we're using them in this game. But I think, you see those changes. Chan come on and for Anton and as I mentioned, Shannon Gross for Anton and Sabitzer, and then quickly seeing them get a goal, and then not much, still continuing the trend of not being able to create much after that to get back into it.
Anton has been very disappointing so far. I know it's going to take a while for him to, really assert himself into this team, and that spot is still pretty much wide open right next to Schlotterbeck. I mean, Sula has looked, I think, pretty much the best he's looked in a Dortmund kit, but the bar is not that high here. And, with terms of injuries, only 3 senior center halves in this team, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for more minutes. But at the moment, Anton has been pretty underwhelming. Yes, Sabitzer had to come out early this game. I can't remember if it was a knock or not, but if not, I didn't understand that substitution either. Mecha was rightfully so taken out here in the 63rd minute. But again, there's not too much of a difference you can make on the bench, especially not for this Wolfsburg game either. I mean, you look at the bench here against Augsburg, and of course you have Bayer, who's still trying to find any sort of form in this team, and he just, you need to give him more minutes to gain that confidence and hopefully get some, stroke of luck with some form. And then you have Kabar, who very, very reckless game for his debut. I mean, that was pretty shocking of how, I don't know, poorly he defended. I know you're kind of thrown at the Wolves, and that comes down to squad planning. That comes down to management. Also, Shaheen has a little bit of a hand in that as well. Not near much of his fault with other problems in the team, but, he does have a tiny bit of that responsibility as well, but mostly just on, management in general. They've been neglecting that kind of problem for years. And you and I have been talking about this for years now. I've moved to a new apartment. I've stayed an entire year in that apartment, and I still have the same talking points of this team only has 3 senior center halves in it, and we're just waiting for the day that something happens to 1 or 2 of them, and we are completely screwed already. Little to no depth on the team, on the bench to come in and bring any sort of stability for that defense. And you're seeing that more and more this year in an already exposed back line under Nuri Sahin.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and start. I'll just go into it in the depth. And I think in this match, and obviously in the Wolfsburg match, is a huge indicator of we've been stacking our bench with a bunch of youth players. And I know people want to have the thought that cool. I mean, Dortmund is a team that we have developed good youth players. Like we see with Gittens, mm-hmm. right? I would still put him in that category. Seems like we're trying to do it with Duranville, but of course he's injured again, which is just insane. This kid is when I see him, I'm fantastic, but when do you actually see him? It's crazy.
Just keep him in bubble wrap anytime he's not playing.
Oh, it's so crazy. But I'll argue that all these kids we've been stacking on our bench, it's been a rotating cast of youth players coming in, and they're literally mm-hmm. just filling up a seat. There is no plan to play these kids, no plan to actually try to develop them. They are literally there because we can't fill out a first team. We can't fill out a match day roster. And that's not just injuries. It is in this Wolfsburg match very much.
Yeah.
But we just don't have the players. As you mentioned, 3, we said it all year last year. You already said that. But going into this year too, 3 first team center halves. The other option, I bring him up all the time, but Koulibaly, we send him off to another Champions League level club. I get if you want him to develop and play, but he did that last year too, though, right? He did go to Belgium and he got injured, but he still got some good first team minutes. And then we just send him off again when we don't have a fourth center back is crazy to me. Like, I don't know how you can expect or to send him out and think, I just don't know the thought behind it. Maybe they don't actually value him. Maybe they want to sell him and they only have a loan for him. But like, I feel like you need the body, and he would have gotten minutes, rotation minutes, or subbing on minutes. Like, we definitely need him. And then it's the same scenario for our fullbacks coming into this season with 3 fullbacks too. Like what do you think is going to happen when guys start to get injured? We're always a team that maybe you look at our medical staff, because we always have guys injured, and we always have multiple guys injured. I don't know how you can just go into this year and not plan. Like I do, like, not plan properly, not have we don't have the squad we need. And to be a club who the last couple of years just missed out on the Bundesliga title, and then somehow making it the Champions League final last year with this like skeleton squad that we had. And then to just think, yeah, we can do it again, probably with feels like less players this time around. Like my rant with Koulibaly, like, same goes out for Tom Rota. I know he probably wanted more minutes. It's something he wanted to do, but clearly we could have given him some minutes too. It's like, it's insane. Like I could go on and on about this depth and lack of depth, and the youth players we're just throwing in because we need bodies to fill the seats. It's just, and like, I don't agree that Shaheen's ready. I think so much of what you said last week is so true. Like, we should not be a club to give young coaches a chance. Like, they need to have a better pedigree, and they need to be like a coach that's ready to win something. If we actually, like, it seems like, I don't know how we got so close those last couple of years of actually winning something big. Seems like it just kind of happened by chance, but to be taken seriously, or like to actually finally do something, finally win something, like, you got to get a more serious coach. But I also don't put all of that on Shaheen. Like, I don't think Shaheen's ready, but at the same time, like, he's kind of, they're not giving him much of a chance to succeed with the skeleton squad. And I do feel like we did a really good job in the off season of finally, like, shifting on players and bringing in a lot of players, but it's just not enough. Like, it's just, we were already short, and yeah, we brought in 6 players, but we also shipped out a ton of guys too. And we probably could have kept Ozcan, could have kept, again, like I said, Rota, Koulibaly, those guys, in my opinion, like, it's just, we're so short. It's insane.
The incompetence and the blame, again, there's plenty to go around. There's such a long list that we didn't even touch it. Like, you just touched on Rota. That was a big one too. Mukoko still, I mean, I've said it for a few weeks now, the day that Guirassy picks up a knock, and it very well could be a pretty long injury because he's playing so much football, sometimes 3 times a week. And in this game against Wolfsburg, 120 minutes. This team's going to have no one to play up top. Bayer is struggling for any sort of form right now. I think there definitely is going to be a future for Cole Campbell, who, had a good, or at least a lot more minutes in this Wolfsburg game as compared to the Augsburg one. But yeah, just from we've messed up so many different deals in the past year or so, and Füllkrug too. I think he definitely, even though I know he wanted to be that man, I still think there could have been an enticing enough offer for, like, hey man, you're still going to get plenty of minutes in this team. I think 70 to 80% of the games we've played so far, I would have had Füllkrug on to come in the last 15, 20 minutes. Of course, the first few games, Guirassy wasn't even healthy. And then whenever he is in, and either you wanted to do, like, sometimes we've seen a front 2 with Bayer, Füllkrug could do the same thing. Of course, they're a similar player profile, but I mean, at the moment, I'll take Füllkrug over Bayer any day of the week. And yeah, just the injuries aren't helping either, man. But all of that still, I don't think it's an excuse that every team has a sense of belief that they can beat us now. They do not fear Borussia Dortmund. Augsburg, no matter who the team is, that's, again, like, relegation level candidates. St. Pauli too. It's not a coincidence that every side that Dortmund come up against suddenly have the belief and energy to actually win, to go to these first and second balls and win those first and second balls, to win your duels. Just the simple things in football that are going to get you that extra 10% and above an opponent at the end. And yeah, it's frustrating, man. It's frustrating. And at this point, it's also pretty depressing too, because this is now 5 straight away defeats this season, if I'm not wrong. We haven't won an away game in fucking, like, what, 7 or 8 months or something like that. It's something ridiculous. at least in the Bundesliga. And just at home, too, we're very underwhelming against, again, teams that are not that great. Later this week, we're going to come up against an opposition like Leipzig, who have so much more talent at their disposals. Of course, Rosa, too, who knows how to exploit a lot of Dortmund's weaknesses in terms of just their tactics and their terms of like just the how the players play as well and just how they perform. So I'm not feeling good about this game either. I think it's going to, like people said before, this is going to get worse before it gets better, and unless there is some major changes made. I think at the moment it's got to be starting with Şahin and his coaching staff too. I mean, I have not seen much of that they've offered so much to. Of course, a lot of their work is going to be behind the scenes, but this club needs to stop running on nostalgia and nepotism. It's getting ridiculous, and it's continuing to hurt this club too, like in every measurable aspect.
Yeah, I think that all plays into I know we mentioned in the offseason, like Şahin, we were hopeful, obviously, right, coming in, because we were so done with Terzic. We're like, cool, freshen up. We thought we might have seen glimpses of what Şahin was doing behind the scenes as an assistant. Who knows if that was true or not, but we were like grasping onto anything that could be good, right? Because we were optimistic. We wanted to have a positive outlook. But I also remember us talking about, like, does this just feel like they're just bringing in the BVB vibes? Like, let's run it all on vibes. And now it feels very much like that's what they're doing. And I'm almost like no one actually knows what they're doing. It's like the BVB boys club. Like, we got the gang back together. Let's figure it out. And guess what? It's a shit show. And like, you see that with how we're performing on the pitch. You see that with how the squad is built, or the lack of squad is built. And it's just it's so sad to watch. Like, we even said coming off the last episode with Stefan, and we're like, this next week is going to be so brutal. Like, given the injuries we have, and just like we haven't won on the road yet, so it's pretty terrifying having 2 back-to-back away games and then coming home to Leipzig, who've destroyed us at home before. And I mean, you mentioned Guirassy playing every game, 3 games a week. Like, that's the competition. Like, we almost won this competition last year, right? But that's the competition we've always been competing in, is Bundesliga and Champions League. And if you want to actually compete, like, you have to have the squad. You have to have the squad depth. Like, you need basically 2 starting 11s. And we barely have 1 right now. Yeah. That is in part because of injuries, but you go beyond that, and it's skeleton squad. And I do want to run through the Wolfsburg lineup, which is really fun to look at, especially the subs bench, which I am going to go in on this time. Kobel getting the start, which I know there was some, why not Meyer? Like, I get it. Like, I think Şahin is throwing out the best players he thinks he can. Like, why not put Kobel in goal? That's fine.
Oh yeah, he's just trying to get results at this point.
Yeah. Benzabaini, Schlotterbeck, his left back, center back, Chan, our second center back, and then Pascal Gross playing right back, which I know there was a bit of, I mean, he's played that position for Brighton. He's very much been kind of a utility, play him everywhere. I wasn't like too concerned. I'm just more concerned that, like, we have to do that. Like, that's the frustrating thing, that we have to put Chan and Gross in those positions, which we can talk about Chan and his performance. I know we had a question on that anyways, because it wasn't the worst thing in the world. But Brandt and Mecha are 2 holding, and then Gittens, Bayer, and Mullen. Bayer playing kind of a 10, second striker, and then Guirassy up top. And then on the bench, which is really fun to look at, we have Cole Campbell, which we've seen. We knew he was going to be in the first team picture. We had Sabitzer, we had Meyer, and Vetchen as far as our 4 first team players, if you want to count them. Cole Campbell, yes, like I said, he's been in the picture. Vetchen definitely been in the picture, but we haven't seen him actually get a lot of minutes this year. And then Polina, who is BVB2 striker. We had Kabar, another BVB2 player. We saw his debut last match. Great. Mane, center back. Lurs, another defender. Ozil, midfielder. It's just kids. It's just all kids. Kids that you probably haven't heard of. Except Kabar, because he got that red card last week.
I don't know, man. I'm just so upset that I forgot my train of thought here. It's a tough game, like you mentioned. It's away. Players are out of their position due to scarcity, and there's just no depth on the bench. I did want to touch on Gross on playing as a fullback here. I mean, yeah, he played for Brighton there, and I think he slotted in very well. Of course, it's not his preferred position, but like a lot of our attacks came down that right-hand side, whether it's
Yep.
Gross and Malin linking up, Gross having some individual skill to find him just that slight second of space and time to find some great balls into Girassi, into Bayer at times. So, I mean, Gross for being asked of him, what has been asked of him so far this season has been, a lot for a guy that age, and, constantly playing in different positions too. So, I mean, all credit to him. I didn't think he did bad by any means in this match.
Yeah, and I'm curious, I don't think we'd ever get the clarity, but maybe that was part of the plan, I guess. Like, I don't like, we've obviously, he came
Yeah,
in and was
mentioned that.
immediately starting center mid, right? But then we see him playing every single match, and we hadn't seen a minute at right back, which maybe you don't need to, but maybe they did bring him in as this utility. And you could put Chan in this conversation too. Like, are they just banking on these guys being those depth positions where we have 3 first team center backs? Maybe they see we have 3, and you throw Chan in there as center back. We have 3 fullbacks, and Gross can also play fullback. Like, maybe that's I hate it. I hate it if that's their vision and idea. But that makes a little more sense, I guess. I don't know. That's when you're like, we're playing FIFA right now. That's just like, I don't know. You can operate FIFA like that, but you can't operate real football like that. And as you mentioned, Girassi playing. Well, I meant to hit on this after the lineup. But now we're seeing these guys who are starting every match. We don't have the depth to rotate, so now they're playing 120 minutes plus, and now we have to go to Leipzig. Like, these guys are already tired from playing on the weekend.
Can you hear me?
Now they're going to be extra tired from playing this match, and guess what? They're going to have to start again against Leipzig because we just don't have other options unless you just literally throw out the kids against Leipzig. So.
Which is a terrifying thought. You could spend hours trying to, think of, the best way of how you're going to line up, not just in terms of personnel, but just your system, your formation. Of course, you saw a different one here against Wolfsburg too. I'm not really sure. I really don't have an answer for that at the moment. I'm still like taking this all in here. And I wanted to say that also, like, I skimmed a lot of this game to try to get to the recording on time. I know I didn't see every single detail. I know this game was like pretty back and forth. Both teams playing on the, just transition, trying to get a goal. And just this game kind of looked like a 1-0 really pretty much throughout its entirety, even relatively early on. Of course, you had like a really big miss from Bayer here in that first quarter hour. Again, I said this like 2 weeks ago. I mean, he's kind of running out of excuses in terms of like, oh, he needs space to operate in, or he just needs to get into like a 1v1 on the goalie. He's had those opportunities now, even cutting in from the left, and he's on his right foot. Things can happen. He's still young. I'm not giving up on him by any means. I've said before that I was dogging on Malin for so long after he was signed and never really came to perform for those first like 2 years almost. So Bayer's got time, but just at the moment, he's pretty stinky doo-doo.
Yeah, I do want to pull up some of our Discord chat because I asked for thoughts and reactions after the match. So we'll run through some of these, and I want to get your thoughts on them. So Samuel H. out of Nashville said, I think the team needs applause for how well they handled this match without any subs till late on, which I don't know if you want to look for some positive. Okay. Like the not subs, like I know people were calling for it all match. Like we need some subs. And that just goes back to like, we have these kids on the bench, not because Shaheen actually trusts them to play and step in. I feel like, maybe Sabitzer could have come on. Like Sabitzer did look really good, brought a lot of life when he came on. And maybe you could argue, maybe you could have brought him on a little earlier. But at the same time, like, I just feel like there were no subs. There are no subs to use to bring on, because I'm sure they're also trying to protect Sabitzer as much as they could too. Not knowing 100% what happened after the last match, or if they were just wanted to save him because everyone else was literally running ragged. But yeah, kind of, I don't know, just no subs there.
That first thought, I mean, you could argue this has been an improvement compared to Augsburg, and mainly just in terms of like the ball progression, but just the bar is so low right now. I mean, if you wanted to look at that as a positive, I wouldn't necessarily disagree, but this team needs results right now in every competition. I mean, the small sniff we had at any sort of silverware is pretty much just gone at this point, unless we go on some sort of another miracle run in the Champions League. That is even if we qualify, and we still got a handful of games to go in that qualification stage. But the Bundesliga, you could kiss goodbye. I mean, hell, top 4 even is in question at this point. So, this team just needs results. And even though you could say that this has, been a quote unquote improvement, if we want to call it that, it's not enough for me.
Another one from Devin. So I did want we talked about Gross a little bit, but maybe if you want to hit on Chan a little bit. He said that is the center back Chan and right back Gross duo something we can use going forward. Chan wasn't awful and Gross was creating a lot from the wing, as you mentioned. And then as I mentioned, like maybe that is kind of their thought on depth. Again, I hate it, but your take on Chan at center back, like it obviously wasn't terrible, but he was terrible.
I don't know who else is available though. So
yeah,
Anton and Sula both are unavailable. So I mean, I don't think there's really another answer at this point. Sometimes when we want to go to like a back 3 or something like that, and then Benzabaini can come in there too, but I don't really see another option at this point.
I've seen this account. I think this is Lisu, but they changed their name to Keep Shaheen His Pants Shit. Said Campbell true debut. Did you have any thoughts on Campbell getting a little extra minutes in this one?
Yeah, I liked the confidence that he had to try a lot of things. Didn't pull off a lot, but he did find some space. Again, he was attack minded. He was hungry for the ball. And, again, not too much happened, but I would say there's still a lot of promise there and what he has going forward. And I'm excited to see more.
Chaz, who maybe if you're in St. Louis, you can hang with me, Carver, and Chaz this weekend. Says, I'll keep it simple. Why do you think we can't score goals?
That's the $1 million question. We are scoring goals sometimes, but on nights like tonight, I don't know. I don't think Shaheen has just got that part figured out here. I mean, of course, Mullen's playing a lot more like deep and wide here this game, even though he did get himself into good positions. I think we did have, again, more chances this game. I think the XG was like 1.7. So there were chances there tonight. I think just it's, if you were looking at this isolated game, players just couldn't finish.
Yeah. And I think part of it is it's like, it seems like I don't know if there's a exact answer like this. There's not like this plus this equals no goals. Like it's almost just like, as you mentioned, Terzic hasn't quite figured it out yet because we've been scoring goals in Terzic. Shaheen hasn't figured it out yet. And I think that comes across how you've seen how have we scored goals, right? It's been these individual moments. Like, yeah, there's some build up here and there, but it just seems like don't really know what our style is exactly or like what our identity is. It's just like guys taking moments and creating something like we saw it in the Augsburg match. Like that link up with Mullen and Girassi was great.
That was still the same problem under Terzic too. So I'm not saying this is like a brand new, I mean, hell, probably even before that too. I mean, with Rosa, I mean, a lot of times this problem of like individual quality, oftentimes from youth players bailing out Dortmund is nothing new, but also just currently right now, I think defense is a bigger question mark than our attack.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause we have attacking, we have some good attacking power. Like, and we've seen it. We see them create those moments, right? But then it's just a lot of instability in the back. Shout out to Chris, who, I mean, we hit on this a lot. You said the construction of the squad really has set Shaheen up for failure, though, which paper thin roster in some key spots. Again, that is a big issue. I don't think Shaheen's ready, but I agree that is not helping his case whatsoever. You have anything to add to that?
I mean, not too much. I'm not going to put, from what I have read, I don't think Shaheen had too much of a say in terms of squad planning. I mean, obviously he was probably involved in some of the decisions in likes of like even vetoing some players, but the squad planning primarily I think is outside of his job description.
That's kind of it from the Discord right now. But again, shout out to everyone on there. If you want to join, find the link in the description of this episode. Carver, what else from this match? Anything else from this?
I got so many mental lapses this episode, so apologies to listeners. I'm struggling again to find words, man. I'm pretty in awe. I was the angriest I've been watching Dortmund in a while. Last week and this week has just been very sad. So I'm just kind of trying to tune everything out here with Dortmund lately.
Yeah, I got
Give us a 5-star rating, though.
Well, I got a couple more questions for you, Carver. I got one in particular, and this is just kind of one of those. I don't know. It's just fun. I don't know how serious I'm going to take this question. Now that Erik ten Hag is available, do you think that has any? Do you think he could be a serious candidate for Borussia Dortmund? And do you think, because I think after not Augsburg, but was it the Madrid match after that when it really started to heat up, like people were calling for Shaheen, and then we saw some quotes on Twitter or some reports saying like, no, Shaheen's definitely sticking around. The board wants to back him, give him time. But do you think the Ten Hag sacking, which came after that, changes that whatsoever? And do you think he's a coach they would potentially look at?
I'm not sure. Ten Hag is he's an interesting one. I was actually just talking to our friend Brian Straub about this earlier this morning, about the idea of Ten Hag, and then he sent me a link of Ten Hag was willing to play Mason Greenwood had he come back, and I was like, oh, that definitely puts a big stamp on for me. It's interesting that he draws the line at Jadon saying something, I guess, about him on the media, but he's fine with a rapist in his squad. I don't know. I think it wouldn't be the worst thing morally. Again, not a fan, but in terms of just like from a sporting perspective, there's some decent names out there. I mentioned Kovac as well. Potter's available. Christian Streich too, I mentioned as well. So, I mean, there's a good pool of managers here with some actual experience, and even with that experience doing some pretty great things that can come in if the board finally decides to admit their fault here and their ignorance and just being naive with the appointment of Shaheen.
Yeah. On Ten Hag, the whole Manchester United thing has, and I'm not a Man U fan. Like, I've thoroughly enjoyed watching their downfall. But the whole Ten Hag like experiment, I guess, has always been so interesting to me because I feel like you can't. I think there was a time, maybe after the first year at Man U or shortly after that, like I was like, I wouldn't hate seeing him come to Dortmund. Because I think so much of that is how chaotic Manchester United is as a club overall. I think they've kind of made some appointments that looked like they have a sporting director. And it looks like they're maybe have a better trajectory going forward. But I just don't think you can deny what Erik ten Hag did with Ajax. And maybe a lot more of that is like the backroom in Ajax and how that club is set up. Like, but I just feel like he had so much success there. There's definitely something like some positive there. I don't think it's Man U is all his fault. I do think I don't always love how he came off in media and kind of made excuses and would constantly say like, we're still building or we don't have the right players. It's like, man, you've been there 3 years and you spent so much money and you had a say in a lot of these players coming in. So
yeah,
like,
well over half of that lineup is either Dutch or came from Ajax. So I mean,
yeah,
you have, when you coach Manchester United, you have to like run that whole club. So he had such an enormous job that so very, very few, if any at all, managers could even attempt to try to salvage in just today's world at that club. I mean, names like Mourinho couldn't do it. So many down the line could not run that club, and that's what you have to do. So, I mean, Ten Hag had a lot on his plate there.
Yeah, I just saw it today. I think it was a Premier League put out. It was just like a list of all the managers since Sir Alex Ferguson, and it had their win percentage in there too. And Sir Alex was like 67%. And then everyone after that was like 52, 51, 49, 52. Like it was just not even close. I think Ten Hag was actually 52. So he wasn't the worst. He did have like more losses, I think, in comparison than
won them
than some of the
silverware
other guys.
too.
But
He won the FA Cup. I mean, didn't he win like a Europa League title? I don't want to get too into United anyway.
No. But I don't know. Again, the Ten Hag thing, like as a potential serious candidate for Dortmund, if they were to kind of move that way, I don't know. I don't think I'd hate. Again, I'm so back and forth. It's like maybe I should just write off the Ajax stuff, like because there's been so much stuff lately. Where I'm like, again, how his excuses and everything he said, I'm like, I don't actually like it. Like I want to just say it's the Man U board who's crap, but like I'm starting to not like you that much either. But I also agree, like, or I also think if the board, like I don't have that much faith or hope in the Dortmund board right now either. So maybe he if he needs that to succeed fully, like if he can't just take the reins, I don't know. I'm not like, it'd be interesting. I'm not saying 100% let's get Ten Hag in here. I'm definitely not saying that. But I
No,
am
you're
saying I
definitely
would like
saying
to look
that.
at some better options than what we have right now.
I don't got anything to add.
I know where you're at, and I think we talked about it last week with Stefan, but like, what's the last straw that needs to break for you to think the board will actually make a move?
Tonight could have been a good argument because
Yeah.
for the reasons I already mentioned. I mean, I don't know. The bar is so, I think the standards are just not there for the board. So they could fucking ride this out way longer than it needs to. You know, they're going to make excuses for every game. I feel like coming up with Leipzig, they're going to be like, oh, it's a tough opposition. And then they're just going to keep dwindling. So
Yeah.
who fucking knows? Sorry.
I feel like the Leipzig match is like a big one. I don't think we're going to win that match. Like, I've never wanted to give a score prediction against us, but I have
Right.
absolutely no hope in that match.
I was hoping we don't have to cover that part.
We don't have to. We'll just push the watch party, come out and have a drink with us, and we'll just call it that. We'll just call it a nice little hangout with some fellow Dortmund fans. But I'd like to think it's that. Like, if that doesn't go well, if it doesn't look like anything's changing, like you said, they can make excuses. But so many times last year, when we wanted to change from Terzic, they just said, as long as top four is still in sight, like when top four comes into threat, then we'll make a change. And I just hope like the same rule applies. And guess what? It already feels like there's a threat, especially with an opponent like Leipzig, who that is a top four opponent, right? Like, that's someone we need to be beating to secure a spot in the top four. From my perspective, again,
100%.
We're just two
100%.
Americans sitting here talking about Dortmund.
That's just factually correct. Yeah, we have to. We won't, but we have to.
Maybe we should have started this episode in our my little office notes at the beginning. We're recording this on Tuesday night, so something might happen. By the time this episode's out, all this could be irrelevant. Who knows?
If you're a new listener, that is our specialty here. Is always the next day when an episode drops, something else happens.
But we'll see. I don't know. Maybe it was just a fun rant, and you're just, maybe everything's happy moving forward. I don't know. We'll see. No, it's
definitely not that part either.
I don't think it will be. But yeah, if there's, but at this point, like, if news is broke, we'll probably have another, maybe a quick little update, or I'll have to re-record an intro to this podcast saying like, by the way, you probably know the news now. Anyways, I don't know. We should probably wrap it at this point. Now, I do appreciate everyone hanging out, listening, especially saying it again to those on our Discord. If you want to get connected there, or on our socials, or on email, if that's your thing, you can find the links to everything in the description of this episode. Carver, you got anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Enjoy your evening. Everyone enjoy hanging with us. Again, just hit it one more time. If you're in St. Louis, Amsterdam Tavern in Tower Grove South, we will be watching with the Borussia STL people. And if you are going to a watch party anywhere else, or if you're kind of helping run one, if you're part of a supporters group in DC, Boston, like I said, anywhere, especially somewhere we haven't mentioned, make sure you reach out and let us know so that we can support and promote that too. And that is it. We will see you guys hopefully Saturday, all crying together.